In its quest to provide an open forum for discussion of controversial issues, this station allows hosts and their guests to express themselves without any significant censorship. You are advised that any view expressed by the host or their guest are not necessarily the views of the owners or management of TogiNet Radio, Togi Entertainment, or the Owners Group, Inc.
Motherhood Incorporated proudly presents Military Mom Talk Radio live on TogiNet.com. Co-hosted by Robin Boyd and Sandra Beck, the owner of Motherhood Incorporated. Military Mom Talk Radio is here with a powerful platform for women to discuss their ideas, issues, and concerns with respect to the military lifestyle. Military Mom Talk Radio encourages you to share your experiences of being a military wife and mother. This show is dedicated to educating your family about the many resources that are available in both the public and private sector, and we'll be sharing helpful information from women all over the world. We'll cover everything military, from helping a family member cope with post-traumatic stress disorder, to navigating government programs dealing with family issues, to the struggles of deployment, along with being a working mother both in and out of the home. This is Military Mom Talk Radio, and here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd. Robin, we have a great show today. I'm so excited.
We sure do. How are you, Sandra?
I am really good this week. And you've got some exciting news, some things that are happening around the country, some awards that have been given out recently. Do you want to lead off with that?
Well, sure. We can get right into it. I have been perusing the Internet. I just thought it's really kind of neat to pull some of these things together, and I thought it would be great to lead off. There's a couple of things. One item that I noticed on Spouse Buzz is that the Department of Defense announced that, Department of Defense, did I say that? 16 states have either adopted laws or are close to doing so, so it will ease professional licensing restrictions for out-of-state military spouses. And I know so many people who travel so frequently from state to state with your spouse. You have to up and leave your own job if you are so employed, and if you are anything from cosmetology to lawyers to whatever, obviously your licensing or certification goes from state to state. So there are more states that are looking at this, but right now there are 16 states that are engaged in this. And I think there is discussion for why is it only 16 states and not every state. So there's more discussion to be found either on spousebuzz.com or on Military Community and Family Policy's Facebook page. And that is the name of the Facebook page, Military Community and Family Policy. And there's a discussion there that everybody can pipe in and find some more activity to do there. There's a headline that came across our desk that 2 Department of Defense education activity teachers have been selected as recipients of the prestigious Presidential Award for Excellence. And these awards were in mathematics and science teaching. We wanted to extend our congratulations to Erica Meadows from Hohenfels, Germany. She received the Math Award, and Lisa Zimmerman, also from Hohenfels, Germany, received the Science Award. President Barack Obama announced the 85 mathematics and science teachers last week, and all of the educators will be receiving their awards in Washington, D.C. later on this year. And additionally, we want to congratulate some students. There were 3 Department of Defense education activity students who were selected to participate in the 2011 Research Science Institute this summer at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, right in my back door in Cambridge, Massachusetts, right down the way. These students were selected. Their names are Marie Elise Gotsky from Heidelberg High School in Heidelberg, Germany. Also receiving the opportunity is Catherine Kem from Wiesbaden High School in Wiesbaden, Germany, and Colin McDonald from Lakenheath High School in Suffolk, England. And it is quite an honor for these students to have been given these opportunities. So we wanted to make sure that we congratulated them and wish you the best of luck in your opportunity, because this certainly is an opportunity of a lifetime.
You know, Robin, I'm so glad that you got that segment, because you know how I kill names for people when they come on the show.
Well, I don't know if I got Maria Elise's name correct. Gotsky, I believe, is the correct pronunciation.
Oh, I was like Gotsky, Getsky. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Gotsky. You're right. It might be Getsky, but it's Goetzke. And she's from Heidelberg, Germany. That's the Maria Elise from Heidelberg, Germany. Like there is only that's the only Maria Elise over there.
Well, it was funny you say that, because on my sister show, here's a shameless plug for Motherhood Talk Radio, which airs Tuesdays from 3 to 4 Pacific Standard Time. We had that nutritionist on, Rona Brynan, and for like 3 or 4 shows, I kept calling her Brennan, and everybody's flagging me, and I'm like, what? And then finally, she's like, my name is pronounced Brynan, not Brennan.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, it was embarrassing.
You told me, because if I spoke with her, I would have said Brennan. I didn't hear the correction.
Well, and it's one thing that, it's so hard when we have all these different names and all these different spellings for things. When I think about our guest today, which I'm so excited, we have Charles Toth, the Deputy Director of the Department of Defense Education Activity, which you guys know is the DoDEA, and we also have Kathleen Facon. She is the Partnership Branch Chief, and they have just a tremendous job in educating, the students of our military families, because poor Robin, you're always correcting my spelling. You're always correcting, and I went to a traditional school and a fancy
well, it doesn't help
college.
that was my major, was early childhood ed. So as long as it's up to the 5th grade, I'm good at correcting.
So wait, you're telling me I have the spelling of a 5th grader? No, probably a 1st or 2nd grader, if you ask me.
Oh, gosh. Well,
Rob, when I think about what the Department of Defense Education Activity has to handle, I want to throw some stats out to our listeners today. We've got 194 schools they administer in 12 countries, 7 states, 86,000 students they're responsible for, which just tickles me pink, because my hometown is like a tenth of that. And they're responsible, for these students, and they're in Guam and Japan and Korea and Bahrain and North Carolina and New York and Kentucky, which is hard enough to...
And that's the key that I'm really looking forward to chatting with our guests about, in that it's all well and good to go from state to state, but when you start going into different countries, and even though they may be schools that are on base or schools that are regulated by our military, you still have the influence of the country around you, I'm sure. So you have to throw in that language issue, or that you must have to include things like that. And I would think that it just adds all the more different dynamics when you have to incorporate all of that into your core curriculum. That must be so challenging.
Well, and then to just add on top of this, because, Robin, I was a educator. I taught at USC, University of Southern California, for about a year. I was terrible. So Department of Defense people, do not come and ask me to do anything. But I had to manage students that were going into their MBA program from all these different countries, Japan and Germany and Russia. It was a nightmare. I mean, to be honest, they all had their different cultural dispositions. They all had different, being different students to boot. But then when you look at the Department of Defense Education Activity, the other thing that I love to add in here is that they have student enrollment in the different branches, like, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the National Guard, and then the DoD civilian, students of civilian employees. And I think of, like, how, every once in a while I'll say, like, Marines, and I'll mean Marines and soldiers or airmen, and, and now I'm getting my chops busted because recently my company has hired a National Guardsman, and we've traditionally only had, soldiers and Marines, and now... I've got this National Guard guy in, and, heaven forbid, I say, hey, soldier, sit down and do this. But now you've got that competition, between the different groups. It's like, I've got my jarhead that argues with the soldier that now the National Guardsman throws in his lots. Now you also have the cultures that go along with the different service branches.
Yes, and isn't that the challenge, is that there are so many different dynamics that they have to look at, not just your basic core curriculum, but all these other entities. And I'm just really holding them in such high respect here, and I'm so looking forward to chatting with them. This is really going to be so interesting.
It is. And, and I think a lot of people take for granted how much our government does do and how much is put into supporting our military families as they, move from place to place. And there's another thing that I'd like to add in. I'm just going to throw it into the fire, because when you think about running a school, you think about, the elementary schools our kids go to, or the middle school or the grade school. Now let's put in, in this whole Department of Defense education activity soup, if you will.
Yes,
different branches, different races, different countries, different states. But then throw in, and the different branches, I think I said that. But then also let's make it pre-K up until grade 12.
Yeah, exactly. All together, all lumped in together.
That's a lot. I'm just so glad that we're on the radio. We don't have to do this for a living. Because I'll tell you, that's a lot.
It sure is. I have a niece and nephew, my nephew and niece-in-law, if that's the correct term, just going back to Germany. So their daughter and son will be involved in one of these schools over there, I'm sure.
So we're going to have to bust our guest shop and say, take care of Germany, because Robin's family's over there.
I'll have to see if I can get Kristen to come on one of these days. I'll get her on Skype, and we'll have her come on, because my nephew is, he's just getting another bump up, so we'll have to get his exact rank. But anyway. Yeah.
Well, you know what, Robin? We're about ready to go to commercial break. My name is Sandra Beck. My co-host is Robin Boyd. The show you're listening to today is Military Mom Talk Radio. We're available on iTunes. We're available on iTunes France and Germany now. We're very excited about that. We're also found on MilitaryMomTalkRadio.com. Our host station is TogiNet. Our guests today are Kathleen Facon, the Partnership Branch Chief, and Charles Toth, the Deputy Director of the Department of Defense Education Activity. We're going to be talking about the DoD's mission, some of the things that they do, and how to help your students be more successful in their education.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Mark Lipinski is coming to TogiNet. It's Creative Mojo with Mark Lipinski, a live 2-hour show Wednesday afternoon starting at 3, 2 Central on TogiNet.com. Creative Mojo. It's fun, entertaining, informative, inspirational, and illuminating. Lipinski has worked on such shows as Oprah, The View, The Joan Rivers Show, and Ricky Lake. He's busy, but he's got the drive to share with Creative Mojo, dedicated to the modern crafter and crafting lifestyle. Dive into the info and enjoy everything from celebs to entertainment news to recipes, quilting and needlework, knitting, painting, woodworking, Christmas crafts, and so much more. This show boldly encourages you to discover and harness your own creative spirit by living creatively every day. For more on Mark and the show, check out marklipinski.com. Don't miss the fun. It's Creative Mojo with Mark Lipinski, Wednesday afternoon starting at 3, 2 Central on TogiNet.com. Hey moms, get ready for Living the Dream Mom with Nina Fry. Thursday mornings at 10, 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Living the Dream Mom is about the true realities of motherhood, the beauty and the rewards of watching your children grow.
All these moms have something in common. They put their kids first. It's not about the kids all the time and the diapers and the bottles and the breastfeeding. It's about showcasing the mother in motherhood. Real moms in the real world. You get it? Now that's what the show's about. So every week, let's get together and we'll share these great stories with you guys. And I hope by the end of the show, you'll be saying, you know what? That is my life. Nina gets it. And I can't hardly wait to see what she brings me next week.
Don't miss the next Living the Dream Mom. It's Real Moms in the Real World. Thursday mornings at 10, 9 a.m. Central. Living the Dream Mom with Nina Fry on TogiNet.com.
Put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and the Statue of Liberty started shaking.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and we are welcoming some outstanding guests today, something that is near and dear to my heart and Robin's too, because we are both big proponents of education. Robin, you have your degree in early childhood education. Mm-hmm. I was an educator at USC, not a very good one, but I still can say that. But we are welcoming...
You were good. You were good.
You know what? I was too silly. I got really high ratings from the students, and they did well, but I didn't have that kind of whole USC, look at how cool I am thing. Much better job for me over here.
I think so. I'm glad anyway.
Yeah. So we have today Charles Toth, the Principal Deputy Director and Associate Director for Education, and Kathleen Facon, who is a Partnership Branch Chief of the Department of Defense Education Activity, which is much easier to say than NACRA, but we're going to go to Kathleen first. Kathleen, can you please tell us a little bit about, what is the DoDEA?
Well, sure. The Department of Defense Education Activity is a school system in and of itself. You mentioned earlier the 194 schools and all of the locations where we have our schools. The Department of Defense Education Activity is the umbrella organization, or in maybe some more civilian terms, the state education agency of the Department of Defense school system.
And you are, what is it exactly that you do? What is your job requirement? I know you're a chief. Can you explain to me what you do?
Well, 3 years ago, the Department of Defense Education Activity was given the opportunity to reach beyond the 194 schools that we have and the 85,000 military connected students that we serve to a larger population, really the 1.2 million military connected school-age children that are pretty much everywhere across the country, and in most areas they are educated in our public schools. And so the Educational Partnership Branch provides opportunities to reach out to public schools and share our experiences and best practices with public school districts. But quite frankly, it's almost as much we're learning from what public schools are doing in the world of education and in supporting military-connected students. So it's a real win-win type relationship. But we are able to provide support through grants and through professional development to public school districts serving military children nationwide. And
That's
so that
amazing.
That is what the partnership branch responsibilities are within the Department of Defense Education Activity.
You know, and that's so important. We have a lot of guests on the show, and we talk about this, about the families that live off post and the isolation. And, we have a couple. I live near Edwards Air Force Base, so we have, a mixture of civilian and then, military families, and we have only one military family on our whole canyon, and they're very isolated. And, there's just specific needs that different families have. So I'm really glad to hear that you have a partnership agreement in place, to help the students in both arenas, and for those students that transition between DoDEA schools and civilian schools. I'd also like to welcome Charles Toth. He's our Principal Deputy Director and Associate Director for Education. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you, Sandra. It's nice speaking with you.
It's nice to have you here today. So now that we've covered what Kathleen does, would you like to share with our listeners today what you do?
Well, as the Principal Deputy Director for DoDEA, I pretty much have supervisory oversight to almost all operations that encompasses what we do every day in support of the education of military children, be it information technology requirements, human resource management, logistics, safety and security. I think you get the picture of almost anything and everything that this organization does in support of the education of our children. And secondly, I wear the hat of the Associate Director for Education, so all curriculum, instruction, and assessment requirements, policies, decisions are worked by desk to the Director.
So now you've been with the Department of Defense for quite a long time here. I'm seeing 28 years alone, but 39 years experience in education. Can you share with us a little bit about where you have? I see you've been all over the world as part of your teaching instruction as superintendent. Give us a quick rundown of those experiences.
Sure, very quickly. I started my career as a DoD teacher in a high school in Bremerhaven, Germany in 1979, and was, through the course of the next 27 years, a classroom teacher in Bitburg, Germany, Gießen, Germany, Frankfurt, Germany, an assistant principal in Frankfurt, Germany, and an assistant principal in Lakenheath, England. Followed that up with a stint as the principal of Alconbury High School in England, Würzburg High School in Germany, was promoted to assistant superintendent of the Bavaria District Schools in 1999-2000 school year, and promoted to the superintendency of the Korea schools in 2004. And I've been in my present position as either an acting or the official principal deputy or an education leader since 2009. So it's been an extensive career. It's been a rewarding career, and I cannot think of any other passion I would have ever encountered in my professional life than what I've been able to do in support of the education of military children. It's just one tremendous, gratifying experience.
That is
well,
so
Charles, I don't know if we could get anybody with any more credentials to come on the show today and talk about, the best practices that parents can utilize with their families in getting a good education through your schools. What are the eligibility requirements for a student to attend the DoDEA schools?
Well, we have four categories of enrollment. The most significant enrollment category we call space required. These students are the children of command-sponsored military members who have been assigned to a duty assignment in one of the overseas locations where the military has a footprint. We have a second category that's for students who are the children of non-command sponsored soldiers who want to attend our schools, and also children of DoD civilians who are eligible to attend our schools. And DoD civilians can attend our schools as tuition-paying students. We have a third category for another layer of tuition-paying students who would be eligible to attend based on the employment category of their parent. And then we have a fourth category of enrollment, and it is for the children of folks who are not affiliated with the DoD in any way, yet they have the desire to have their children educated in a public school setting, and they seek to enroll their children in our schools on a space-available basis, tuition paying. It's a very regimented enrollment process, and I'm sure you know that with all of the regulatory requirements that exist within government and the Department of Defense, enrollment in DoD schools are very regulated by policy and regulatory requirements.
Are the facilities funded?
Today that, sorry, Robin. People listening today that want to look up some of this information, you guys can find it at www.dodea.edu. Robin, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, are these facilities funded primarily by the tuition, or is there funding coming from other sources?
Our funding is congressionally mandated through the Department of Defense budget that's allocated every year by Congress.
I see.
The tuition that we receive is returned to the U.S. Treasury.
Really? That's interesting.
So what are the options for parents, and we're about 2 minutes to break, so if you can answer this quickly, what are the options for parents where there's not a public school or a DoDEA school or DoDEA school?
Well, one thing, for military parents, most military parents sent on an overseas assignment are going to be placed in a environment close to a military school. However, there are assignments that send parents to a geographically separated unit. We have a non-DoD school program that is triggered into place when those assignments are made, and we support those students through distance learning, through homeschool programming, through virtual school. We make on-site visits to the school that those students may be attending in a host nation to continue to support the education of those students in that geographically separated assignment. It is a very developed program. While it may not be the most beneficial, it has been very successful in supporting the educational needs of those students. If by chance a student ends up in an assignment where the quality of the local educational opportunity is not sufficient to meet a quality education comparable to what the student would be receiving in another environment, we do fund tuition to send that school to a private school or to pay for the education of that child in a public school setting at government expense to ensure that the education they have access to meets the quality of the parental expectations.
Charlie, we're going to go to break. I will pick this up when we come back, and we'll learn more about the Department of Defense education activity.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Okay, we will. We're going to teach you how to tell your money where to go. It's Intelligent Investing with Pam Otten on TogiNet. Learn how to be a savvy investor from someone who has your best interest at heart. Pam Otten is a financial advisor who loves to help successful business owners and entrepreneurs understand the mysteries of the investment world. And she's not afraid to share that knowledge. Pam is an unashamed Christian and qualified kingdom advisor, which means she's trained and committed to integrating biblical principles into her financial advice. Pam believes investing isn't rocket science. This is the financial advisor who's in your corner and truly understands and cares about you and helping you achieve your goals. Securities and advisory services are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. It's Intelligent Investing with Pam Otten on TogiNet. Connect with Juliana and connect with what lies beneath. Friday afternoons at 4, 3 Central on TogiNet.com. Juliana is a marriage, family, and child therapist who wants people to connect with what lies beneath, those truths and answers. And through her counseling practice, she has helped others find their personal power and fulfill their dreams. And she wants to do the same for you here on Connect with Juliana, through intimate discussions, intriguing subject matters, and the expertise of her guests. For more on the show and Juliana, check out her webpage, connectwithjulianainmedia.com. Juliana will cover it all. Nothing is off limits. She wants to know what matters to you. Make the connection. Tune in to TogiNet to connect with Juliana to find out the facts that could be hidden beneath the surface. Connect with Juliana on TogiNet to make a quality connection in your life. Friday afternoons at 4, 3 Central on TogiNet.com.
There ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hello, military moms. This is Robin Boyd, and I'm here with Sandra Beck. Today we are talking with two great people that are helping us learn more about the Department of Defense education activity. We have Charlie Toth here today with us. He is the he's the Deputy Director of the Department of Defense education activity, and we also have Kathleen Facon here, the branch chief of the DoDEA partnership branch. One of the things that I know that I am so curious about, and we kind of alluded to it a little bit at the beginning, when you have a curriculum set up, how easily is it for your students to then integrate into other school departments when they go on to other schools and get transferred? Kathleen, I don't know if that's something that you wanted to address. It's got to be a challenge.
Well, it is a challenge, and military children attend a number of different school districts. They enter in and out of our Department of Defense school system, and I think the average move and the number of school systems is about nine times throughout a child's K-12 education. And so, yes, as they move from Department of Defense schools to public schools in the United States, and then if they have an opportunity to be in an international school, as Mr. Toth was mentioning, but one thing that the Department of Defense has worked in collaboration with the Council of State Governments is an interstate compact on military child's education. And currently 38 states have entered into this compact, which provides a platform to resolve some of the challenges that children face when moving, especially with their education. What the compact
Kathleen,
does,
what are some of those? Before we get into compact, so that the moms listening today can maybe identify some issues their kids are having as they move from school to school. What are some of the most common issues that happen, because that resulted in the compact?
Well, probably one of the most common issues is state graduation requirements and state different types of curriculum that, especially state history, is one of the ones that we'll see, or different math courses and the way in which math is offered in the states, where if it was if it was algebra in one state in a certain grade level and they didn't live in that state, but they were somewhere else, they might have missed algebra somehow, or they might have taken state history in Texas, but then they were going to graduate in California, and the requirement for California is to have California state history. Well, so one of the examples of the compact would be that if you've taken state history, it doesn't matter which state, that you would have met that requirement. So a student wouldn't have to go back and take California state history just to get a diploma from California. The other would be if a child starts kindergarten in one state but then moves to another state where the kindergarten age entrance is different than the state in which the family first started their child in school. So if they've already started kindergarten in a state and then moved to another state, then the state would then have to allow the child to enroll in kindergarten. There's also issues around immunizations and official transcripts, some opportunities around gifted education. So it really covered the gamut when they were developing the compact of some of the common transition issues for our military families.
That's really interesting that there's not all states that are involved. Similar to the licensing issue that we brought up in the first segment, what are the other states needing to do in order to become a part of this compact?
Well, it is a piece of state legislation, but I would like to say that of the 38 states that are participating, it covers about 89% of our military student population. So we have, the largest population of military-connected states. But the same group that is working the piece around professional licenses that you spoke of in the beginning is the same group that is working with those remaining states to enact the compact. The good news about the compact for military-connected children, it's one of the fastest enacted compacts in compact history. The wow. National Center of Interstate Compacts reports. We're very proud of where we are right now. Of course, we'd love to have all 50 states and the territories and the District of Columbia part of it, but it's moving very, very fast, and I'm sure that we'll get there soon enough.
Sure. I'm sure you have to look at percentage, too, as far as what your student base is for military families. So if you have a state that really isn't highly populated in military personnel, it's probably not as necessary, although you never know when people get transferred for one reason or another, I suppose. But that's really interesting. How do you reach out to the students who are not enrolled in DoDEA schools? Do you provide services to them if they're military personnel students, or are you just assuming that they'll contact you?
No, actually, that's one of the beauties of the Educational Partnership Branch within the Department of Defense Education Activity. We work very closely with military services. Each of the military services has a school support strategy. And part of that strategy are positions at each of the installations called school liaison officers. And those are individuals that work very closely with the local command as well as the local school districts to provide outreach and support to both the schools, the parents, and to the students. And we serve as a resource to school liaison officers, and then we've also developed some resources for school districts. We like to consider ourselves a school district that has, common goals and interests, and so reaching out to public schools that are serving military-connected children just seems like a natural thing for us to do. And we've developed a resource guide called Students at the Center. It's web-based as well as a resource hard copy book that's really aimed at parents, military leaders, and school leaders in ways in which they can support and be better advocates for military children. And then we also have provided an opportunity for special education professional development to school districts. So we have a pretty good idea of where military-connected children are at a district level, and so that's where we reach out to those public schools to see what we can do to support them and their efforts.
So I'm going to hop in here real quick, and I want to put the mic over to Charles. There's two things that came to mind, Charles. With all your experience you've probably seen it all. So I want to ask you, how can parents, specifically moms that are listening today, best support their children in moving from school to school, and then what they should do when a parent is deployed? What's your best practices? What's your best advice?
My best advice from both a parental perspective, having raised 5 children in the DoD school system, and professionally, is the more you're involved in the education of your child, the greater the benefit is going to be to your involvement in capturing the quality of the education you expect for your student. I think from the onset of kindergarten, parents really stay engaged with their student to about the grade of 7, 8, where they want to turn over some of the responsibility to individual growth and development. And even in doing that, I really encourage parents to stay engaged with what's happening with the education of their child every day. Attend orientation. Meet your students' teachers. Stay engaged with what assignments are, with what projects are, with what the quality of the work is that's being graded by the teacher. Stay up to date with grades. We now have a grade reporting program that allows parents to stay current with their students' grade and assignments and work progress on a daily basis, instantaneously. Know who your counselor is. If your student is progressing into middle school, and chart a course of courses that you want your student to take through graduation, so you've got them on track for that career once they receive their high school diploma. In making the move from school to school, do your homework in reading up on the school that your student will be attending, finding out about orientation days, when you can go in and get your schedule completed, what school supplies are needed, all those things that really make a difference in how successful the educational life of your child is going to be when you make that transition. With deployments, and we have been a nation at war for over 10 years now, and have faced multiple deployments.
You know what, Charlie? I'm going to ask you to answer your best practices for upcoming deployments after we get back from the break, if we can do that.
Absolutely.
My name is Sandra Beck. I'm the host of Military Mom Talk Radio, along with Robin Boyd. For those of you just joining us today, we are welcoming people from the DoDEA, Department of Defense Education Activity. We have Charles Toth and Kathleen Facon. We've been talking about education and the major quality of life factor for military families. For those of you who've missed the earlier segments, you can pick us up on iTunes. You can also go to MilitaryMomTalkRadio.com and download this episode and prior episodes from there, or you can head to TogiNet, our host station, TogiNet.com. For Robin Boyd and Sandra Beck, please join us after the break with more about the Department of Defense Education Activity.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Whether you're 4.5 or 100, you can retrain your brain. Learning RX, the radio show, is on TogiNet.com. Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. Central Time with Martin Kruger. Learning RX programs are quick, they're efficient, they're life-changing, and they're permanent. Unlike tutoring, cognitive skills training or brain training targets the root issue causing learning struggles. Time and money spent on chronic tutoring is a clear signal of cognitive skill deficiency. That's where Learning RX comes in. Call today, 903-617-6899. 903-617-6899. Then join us for the show here every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. and take advantage of the power it holds to improve your life. There are so many brain training issues that Learning RX can help you with. It's not a product, it's an experience. So join us for Learning RX, the radio show with Martin Kruger. Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
Mind Matters is the show that dares to ask what's on your mind. Take this opportunity to join Dr. Larry Ross, clinical psychologist, and Joan Duhane, licensed clinical social worker, as they combined have over 50 years of experience in dealing with your mind. Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, only on TogiNet Radio.
We'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and a statue of liberty started shaking.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hello, military moms. This is Robin Boyd again here with Sandra Beck, and we are welcoming Charlie Toth, the Deputy Director of the Department of Defense Education Activity, along with Kathleen Facon, Branch Chief of the DoDEA Partnership Branch. Now, just before the break, Charlie, we were talking about tips for parents, especially when their children are involved in DoDEA or just any military transfers, and I'm sure that there's some challenges when you're getting ready to be deployed as far as preparing your children's school careers.
Would ask parents who are facing the challenge of deployment to really increase their engagement with the school, in increasing their participation in meetings with teachers, reaching out to the guidance counselor. Many of our schools now have a military family life consultant to be of asset to both the school community and the parental community with emotional, social needs as family members go through the adjustment of deployment. Parents need to be on the lookout for signs of depression, anxiety, student disengagement from what their normal itinerary of activity would be on any given day, a decline in homework or a decline in grades, all those things that trigger the need for a parent to show greater engagement in the life of the student and the quality of the education the student's receiving in the challenge of deployment.
That brings up a question, Charlie. What do you do as far as guidance counselors or whatnot? These children must have some challenging things to deal with when they are going through not only the move, but also the stress that their parent is serving our country, and that has to have some weight on their shoulders.
We moved to several years ago. We created a group within the school called the Student Support Team, and really it's a combination of classroom teachers, guidance counselors, administrators, and specialists who regularly meet to monitor the academic progress, the social emotional needs of our students who may be having some difficulty adjusting to a multitude of things, deployment being one of them. Could also be transition. It could also be some family strife that's not related to a deployment, but just things that families process through as a normal part of family living. So these student support teams have been very, very effective at enabling the school to plan a course of action to help mitigate the impact that these various social, emotional, behavioral deployment transition impacts would be having on their school life.
That's so valuable. And I'm sure every year presents different challenges, and of course, depending on where these children's families are or are going to, you have to be on your toes all the time, I'm sure. Kathleen, I was wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about some of the things. Are there summer vacations with some of these schools, or do you really have to sort of have school year-round for these kids?
Well, and that's a great idea, Robin, because we've got all these different schedules, and then now you're planning family trips, and, how do you do that, Kathleen?
How do you support children? I'm not really sure I understand the question. Is this year-round support for the public schools or within DoDEA?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I was just going to say, with so many different schedules, do you have the same summer vacation in Germany that you do here in the United States? Or even in the United States, I mean, I'm sure some schools in Arizona probably don't take a full summer off the way we would in New England.
Right. Actually, go ahead, Charlie, if you want.
We offer a summer enrichment program in almost every one of our communities overseas. It's about a 6-week program of a half a day of enrichment. It's designed to extend learning of the current year in prepping kids as they enter the next year of their scholastic life. The summer enrichment program is a K-8 program that's really been beneficial to our students. And it's also been beneficial to our families as it gives the moms an opportunity to send their student off for a half a day for about 6 weeks during the summer to take care of personal things and know that their student's education is being extended. We also run a remedial distance learning virtual school program for our secondary kids who may need to catch up on some credited courses that will ensure that they stay on target to graduate. So those are the two main programs we offer in the summertime. We've been very fortunate that our families pretty much schedule their holiday travel so that it decreases the amount of time that they take their students out of school. We've been very flexible in adapting to reintegration leave that family members may encounter in returning from Afghanistan or Iraq, and families have been very cooperative in working with us to ensure that when they do take personal leave for vacations, that they minimize the disruptions that they would bring to their students' school life. And it's a partnership that we work very closely within each one of our communities so that we are doing what we can do to make it the best educational environment possible for our students on an individual basis.
And I can see, obviously, if we've had the instances of the children who were invited to that wonderful program at MIT, obviously these students are excelling and are certainly getting the most amazing base curriculum that they could imagine. Kathleen, what are some of the things, maybe as we're going to have not too much more time, what's something that you really want to impart to our families? What is something that we really need for advice from you?
Well, I think Charlie really hit the nail on the head with being active in your child's education, and that's really important throughout their whole K-12 education. That it's just as important in high school and middle school, even though the students are getting a little bit more independent. It's really important to know your students' teachers and to share with them important events in your child's life, especially deployment. We find that many times military families will not share that about share that they're going through a deployment or that their mom or dad is deployed. And if a caring adult in a child's life was aware of family situations, they might be more attuned to behaviors and more sensitive to situations that the child may be experiencing. So really just staying connected and knowing what resources exist and being able to connect with those resources that are in the community, both on an installation within the State Department of Education as well as within the local Department of Education, and then, of course, within our Department of Defense school systems, just staying connected to what the resources are.
Quickly, yeah. Charlie, I want to get this in, and I'm not exactly sure how much time we have until break, so if you could keep it brief. Charlie, can you talk a little bit about meeting the First Lady at the Quantico graduation and her support of the military family?
It was an awesome experience for all of us to have the opportunity to have Miss Obama speak to the Quantico in Japan graduates last week. Miss Obama gave testament to the resiliency of military children who have always been, but even more so in the last 14 years, been the unsung heroes of our nation. What we are asking our military children to do today in the face of multiple deployments of parents to trouble spots around the world, and yet continue to focus on their own education is really testament to the strength of the military family and truly a testament to the strength of the military child. Miss Obama gave an exceptional address on her own personal perspective of the resiliency she sees in her walk as the First Lady in interface with military children and, more importantly, with the military family. And she has raised the quality of life for the military family to be a national focus, and we stand ready to continue to support both the family and the students, our military, in every way possible.
That had to be just an amazing experience to meet her. It's just so wonderful that we have top-down support. We have so much support for our military families. And I'd like our listeners today to check out the Facebook fan page for the Department of Education. DoDEA.edu is what you check out. Same thing for the www. And Robin, you have anything to add?
No, I just to double check the Facebook.com/DoDEA.edu. We want to make sure that everybody has that chance to chat with them, and we just extend our deepest thanks to Kathleen and Charlie. This has been such an awakening show for us. We appreciate your time.
And Frank O'Gare, we want to thank him, and Elaine Canellis today, who helped us put this show together, and we hope that we will have Mary Lee Fitzgerald, who is the acting director of the DoDEA, back soon.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
And be sure to check out the podcasts we have available at www.militarymomtalkradio.com, on toginet.com, and we can be found on iTunes as well. Sandra, we got another show coming up next week, right?
We got another show coming up next week, and we are going to be welcoming an author who has written a book that serves our military families, and she will be with us. And then we will also have coming up in the future some great advice from the Commissary magazine that is launching to serve our military families.
Sounds great. See you next week.